Warren Worthington III. If you know that name, then chances are you know the X-Men. And he is one of the few characters that was robbed from us way back in the other X-Men movies, which, you know, if you watch my channel, you know we don't talk about those films. And now I think it's time that we recast this character. This character desperately needs a redo. Hit the Control-Alt-Delete, you know what I mean? So this is my fan casting for X-Men's Archangel. Ready? And 3, 2, 1, action! Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Nerd News with your host Chris Chavis, a show created for nerds by a nerd. So let's face it, Archangel is one of the most popular characters in the X-Men universe, and one that got robbed from us next to Gambit. You know how that turned out. From his amazing costume to him being one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, this character is just screaming to be just remolded from something that's not what we've seen before. But before we fly into today's episode, that was really bad. Let's try that again. But before we dive into today's episode, if this is your first time here, I would greatly appreciate it if you select that like, the subscribe, and the notification bell. That notification bell will notify you of all things as I create them, and it will give you your time back from the other X-Men movies that you saw under Fox. Burn. So Archangel, Warren Worthington III. I just like saying that name, it's kind of cool. So Archangel is one of the founding members of X-Men next to Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, and Iceman. Oh, and of course Professor X, we can't forget about that baldy. So in September 1963 is when the world got a first glimpse at this Archangel. He is the heir to the Worthington family fortune. Man, that must be nice. His abilities were that of flight, and they had giant feathers on them, just like he was little pretty feathers. But his retelling in the X-Men animated series was by far my favorite. It's the Age of the Apocalypse, where a scientist claims that he has a cure for mutants, like he can make you a normal human being. Instead of you flying in the sky, you can pay taxes. Or sweep the floor, do your own laundry, you get it, we're boring, humans are boring. But of course it wasn't a scientist, it was Mystique all along, and it tricked him into actually being created Bucky Barnes type, you know, messing with your mind, and changed him into one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It changed his skin, it made his beautiful feather wings into this amazingly cool, like, vibranium, I think it was vibranium. You guys, tell me if it's vibranium in the comments below. So in the live action realm, we got to see him, Sam Worthington III. I'm gonna say that all the time in this episode, by the way. Ben Foster was the first actor to play this character, and honestly, I thought it was pretty good casting. I like Ben Foster, he's a great actor. It did make sense to me. But man, do they underutilize that character completely. Okay, little side tangent, a little side note, I promise, we'll get to casting here in a second. How do you start a movie with a character like that, and then not to see him the entire film until the very end when he saves his dad, and that's it? Yeah, X-Men Last Stand, just, you know, if you know me, you know how much I hate that movie. And the second actor to play Archangel is Ben Hardy in X-Men Age of Apocalypse. I'm just keeping my mouth shut because you know how I feel about that movie as well. And Ben Hardy was great, he was a more edgier Archangel, but you know, it's time we need to do sorry, I don't have that accent. I don't know why that happened. But it's time to give this character another moment. Another moment in the sun. He has such a great backstory and a great just character arc. It's time he comes back. And he will. I know he will. So for this list, I really want to find a relatively unknown actor. Or one of those actors where you know him, he's been in everything, but you're like, oh, that guy, I love that guy. There's going to be some young actors on this list, there's going to be some semi-young actors on this list, but there's no like 90-year-old Bob Hoskins or something. I think he passed away. That's insensitive. Good job, Chris. But with that, guys, let's continue on because I'm rambling. So first up is an actor who has been in some good / interesting films, to say the least. Films like Beastly, In Time, I Am Number 4, and of course you can't forget the time-old classic, Magic Mike. I'm talking, of course, about actor Alex Pettifer. Now, Alex is one of those actors where I want to see him take that, he has that pretty boy next door kind of like Dad, meet my prom date and have my daughter home by 12. I'll do what I can type feel. Because I want him to take a role that kind of challenges him, you know? I mean, Magic Mike didn't really stretch his artistic ability by any means. But you still need that pretty boy look. I mean, Warren Worthington is a blonde-haired, he's an heir to the fortune. He's a rich guy, but you know, he's younger, and his life is kind of back and forth because he's a mutant and he doesn't want to let anyone know. He's ashamed about it. He just wants to be normal. And I think Alex could really lend himself to a character like that, to take all those human emotions, the insecurity, the fears, a little bit of excitement of like, I have this power, I can fly, but this is such a burden. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many avenues of emotions that Alex could really dive into and make his own. And Alex is a good actor. I mean, he's like a lot of the actors on this list who's on the verge of like that one role, you know what I mean? That just to prove to us and to prove to himself that he can take a complex character and just kind of give him life and something that we can empathize with. So Alex, it's time to dye your skin blue. I don't know how you'll do that, but figure it out, you got money. And you, my friend, are Archangel, Sam Worthington III. So next we're gonna look to an actor who's already been in a comic book production that was simply, well, fun. He's been in such films as Black Sails, Merlin, and of course the one show that just capsulized his performance in anything comic book, The Umbrella Academy. I'm talking about big ol' actor Tom Hopper. Now, Tom is a bit older of an actor on this list, but Tom's like big stature, his big demeanor would give Archangel just a little bit more of an intimidation kind of feel. Because Archangel is a long, kind of lengthy guy. He's like Michael Phelps, you know what I mean? Like, he's muscular, but he's really long. I guess Stretch Armstrong is what I'm getting at. So the reason why I like Tom is because, I mean, he's already has a couple things going for him. He has the dramatic chop, you know, that he can do more than just being the giant man from Umbrella Academy. But also on the other end with Umbrella Academy, he has that comedic chops, because there are some little nuances of that character that's pretty funny. Even though he is serious at times, it's pretty funny. And Tom had a brief stint in Game of Thrones. I forgot his character's name, but Khaleesi burned him alive with one of her dragons, along with his father at the same time. But Tom, I think you could really bring just a little bit more of an intense vibe, an intimidating vibe to Archangel, which would be something different, something new that we haven't seen. So with that, Tom, you know what you need to do? Continue those curls. You're a big boy. You are my Archangel. So next we have an actor who has a mix of like really good films and some okay films that are under his belt. His films include Hunger Games, Snow White and the Huntsman, and his most recent project in that of Enola Holmes on Netflix, which if you haven't seen Enola Holmes, check it out because it's great. And I'm talking about actor Sam Claffin. Now Sam, he has that demeanor of like, you can tell he has a stage performance, he has stage experience, because the way he carries himself, the way he delivers his lines, you know, he understands the characters that he's playing. I mean, Sam's performance in Enola Holmes is two things. It is really, really, really fun to watch him play that character, and it's also really frustrating because it doesn't really trust Enola. And as hard as it was to see him play that character, he showed us that you can love and hate a character at the same time, which I think is something that's perfect with Sam Worthington III, because he starts out this rich kid who's gonna, you know, get the fortune of the family, and he is struggling with, I'm a mutant, what do I do? And then he gets turned into what we know as Archangel, and he's struggling with that. So technically, there are two different characters. And between those two characters, that range of emotion between both of them, it's just so much rich content that you can draw from it. You need an actor who can really pull those out. Plus, he's already blonde, so he already looks like Sam Worthington III. So Sam, it's time to forget about those Hungry Games and let's join the MCU. You are my Archangel. Next, we're gonna look at an actor who is, you know, relatively unknown, but he has high potential. His films include Don't Sleep, Takedown, and the most recent and the most notable film that he's done, or show that he's done, is Netflix's Shadowhunters. And I'm talking about actor Dominic Sherwood. Now, Dominic is one of those actors who physically has that leading man look, you know what I mean? Like, he looks like someone that could be the lead of a rom-com, or someone that could be in the lead of an action movie. He just has that presence and that look to him. Now, the films that he's been in aren't really household names, but the characters that he takes on, he brings a vulnerability and a value to these characters and a sense of urgency, which is something that I think is perfect for Archangel. You thought I was going to say Sam Worthington III, didn't you? His character in Shadowhunters is a good example. He's inquisitive, he's angry, he's depressed, he's curious, and like I said, character 1, character 2, and everything in between. So if Marvel starts this character off before the Age of Apocalypse, I think Dominic would fit really, really good into that beginning stage of his character arc, because that's kind of where you're going to fall for that character, you're going to get a little bit emotionally involved with him, like we would with, Cap, for an example. So Dominic, you know what? Leave those Shadowhunters alone. You are going to join the MCU as Archangel. And last up is an actor whose stock is indeed rising. With films like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, good movie by the way, The Dead Don't Die, which is a great zombie comedy, and he is just now filming an Elvis Presley biopic as Elvis Presley. And that is actor Austin Butler. Austin is really starting to catch really good projects. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood really has helped, his, like I said, his acting stock kind of shoot through the roof. I mean, his character in that film Tex had those oh my gosh, those creepy intangibles. They're really, really funny, but dark humor funny that he had as one of the Manson family members. And of course, you can't forget his standoff against Brad Pitt's character in Brad Pitt's apartment. It's just so good. And as Archangel, I think he would give that character a fun, more human kind of take, something that you would really, really care about the choices and consequences of this man's life. Plus, he's also used to filming in front of green screen. He was on a show on Netflix called, I can never pronounce the name of this show. Honey, what's that show you watch? The Shannana Chronicles?
I don't know how to say it. Maybe look up how you say it. That's why I call it the Shannana Chronicles.
Shannana. We're going to go with Shannana. That show kind of dealt with monsters, wizards, fantasy type show. So, if you're working on a Marvel production, everything's going to be CGI or mocap suit. I mean, it's just how it is. So his type of acting experience would definitely lend to Sam Worthington III Archangel, because he has that vibe and that, like I said, that action, the charismatic, the emotional state that this character needs. So Austin, after you're done with those blue suede shoes and eating your peanut butter and whatever banana sandwich, you are my Archangel. Well guys, that is it with my list. I hope you enjoyed it. Did you agree with my casting choices? If not, let me know in the comments below. I want to know who you would cast as Archangel. And let's end this episode with some more trivia. So Archangel was the first character to ever guest star in another comic book. The date was January 1964. Picture it. Stan Lee wrote Tales of Suspense, issue 49, which brought Iron Man fighting the Angel. Man, now picture that if Tony Stark was still alive and he fought Archangel in a movie. Not the Archangel with the, beautiful wings, but with the wings. And cut.